Welcome back, everybody, to a Little Less Fear podcast. Today, I would like to introduce Chris Donaldson. He's the author of the book called Going the Wrong Way, and the book is available on Amazon. But before we continue, I just want to say happy 2 year anniversary to a Little Less Fear podcast. Today makes 2 years that a Little Less Fear podcast has been up and running. I want to thank all the supporters, viewers, watchers, and listeners that have been the machinery to keep this going. And with that said, I'm just very blessed with the next guest, and he's got an amazing story, amazing journey, and I can't wait to hear all about it. Chris Donaldson, welcome to A Little Less Fear podcast.
Nice to be here. How are you?
Where are you at? Where are you at? I don't imagine you're in the U.S.
No, I'm in Belfast, Northern Ireland at the minute. It's
Wow,
but
that's incredible.
the power of the internet.
Yeah, the power of the internet. That's really incredible. I've had interviewed some people in Australia and I think the UK a lot, but never Ireland yet. I know there's some Irish descent in my DNA, so fellow Irishman, very nice to meet you. Tell us
So,
about your journey. What brought you to where you currently are today?
well, it's a long story. It's about a 40-year old story. I'm in my 60s now, and when I was 21, I rode a motorbike. Set off to ride to Australia on a motorbike from Ireland. I was brought up in the 70s, the 60s, and 70s in Belfast, and it was a pretty rough spot in those days. Remember the bad old days of the Troubles. I was at school in the middle of Belfast watching the bombs go off at the school
Oh
windows. So,
wow.
but the schoolyard and go through the streets of Belfast in the middle of the Troubles. It was pretty hectic. And really, like a lot of young guys in those days, all I wanted to do was get away once I left school, left university.
Sure.
So I decided to ride my motorcycle to Australia. Uh, don't ask me why, because I'm still trying to work that one out. But it was just when you're young and silly, you take a notion for something and decide to do it. So basically, I had planned to do this for 2 or 3 years. I got all my routes and my visas and everything, and left home. And I got as far as London, and then in 1979, November '79, the Ayatollah Khomeini took over the American embassy in Iran, and the revolution took off and basically closed off the road east. Not far off what's happened at the minute. There's trouble in Iran again. So I couldn't travel to Australia anymore. So I did the next best thing. I just headed south. It was November. I needed to get out of the cold. So I decided to go to South Africa.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I went from basically going the wrong way is the title of the book. So I was going physically and mentally as well, because mentally I didn't actually have any plans. Uh, through something out of my control, I ended up going down a road that I had no knowledge of where I was going or anything about the route that I was taking. Obviously, before internet, before Booking.com and
Oh yeah.
Google Maps and
Long
stuff.
before that, right? Yeah.
So,
So you
long story
decided to
short, I
take
ended up.
you got on your motorbike and you decided to just go from Ireland to wherever it was gonna take you, or did
Yeah,
you
I just
have a
want to get
specific?
somebody.
Oh
No, I
wow,
just
that's
wanted somewhere warm. So it had to be south, it had to be Africa at that stage.
hmm
So a couple of detours along the way. I ended up in Israel,
wow.
Syria, Jordan, Egypt. I rode across the Sahara Desert, and basically a Moto Guzzi Le Mans, which if you never heard of it, it's basically a road bike. It's a sporty road bike. It's not the sort of bike you take across the desert. Um, I ended up in Uganda just after Idi Amin left. There was a civil war going on. Um, Went down to Rhodesia. They were just finishing their civil war. I seemed to be ducking in just before and after civil war started and finished.
hmm
But I ended up in South Africa just after, in the middle of apartheid,
Wow.
which is a bit of a dead end. I got got a job in a sailing yacht back to Europe. Hitchhiked basically at a yacht race back to Europe and got the bike shipped to the States.
Jeez.
I spent 6 months riding around the States, working a bit up to Canada, and then made my way south down Mexico, south through Central America, and eventually ended up in Argentina. So as I say, I left to go to Australia and ended up in Argentina 2 years later. So you can't get much further wrong than that. Um, then I was going to write a book about it. I was actually started writing a book, and then I realized, well, somebody told me that somebody else had written a book about doing a similar trip.
Mm-hmm.
And I, like a lot of people, started the book and gave it up, threw my manuscripts in the drawer and got on with life. And then about 40 years, well, 2 years ago, I decided to resurrect the manuscript and wrote it, finished off the book and published it. And one of my friends enjoyed the book. He says, "Well, you never actually got to Australia. Why not finish the story, finish the journey?" So
Mm-hmm.
more or less semi-retired, but I've got a wife, I've got a couple of kids, so you can't just head off for years and then
Right.
end it
You can't
anymore.
just head off for 2 years.
So I decided to do it in 2 week stints. So rode down to Athens
Oh wow.
in Greece, went over to Israel, couldn't get out of Israel again, and came back to Athens. And then my buddy decided he was going to give up, so he came home and left me on my own to travel through. This is 2 weeks later, or 2 months later, another 2 week trip to through Greece, Turkey, and Iran to Dubai. And then from Iran, 2 weeks later, another 2 weeks was to Iran to Pakistan, and
Wow.
then Pakistan to India and Nepal. So uh, I hope to get to Australia in the next section will be in March. Um, so it'll be about 44 years after I left Belfast to ride to Australia. I'll finally make it there.
That's incredible.
But really, what I want to talk about is how I hadn't realized at the time, but it was very much a coming of age journey that I made. A sort of road trip of learning about myself, sort of transitioning from boy to man, and so on. But more than that, it made me realize that um, you were directed to go a certain way from school right through to jobs. To follow the rules, do what you're told, follow
Right.
a safe, healthy path or health and safety path.
Mm-hmm.
And really, very often, you're missing out a lot of the fun in life by doing that. You're better going against the flow and doing your own thing rather than doing what you're told all the time.
Right. And so Chris, basically you took this trip. I love what you said right now that it was like a transition from boy to man. And do you feel? I mean, what did you learn on this? And I imagine this is in your book. So, what yeah,
Yeah,
what did
you
you
have to buy the
learn?
book.
What's that?
You have to buy the book to learn it. Find that out. No, I learned. I mean, I learned a lot. I learned. I suppose the main one of the main things I learned was if you can't, if you don't succeed, try again. And very often I couldn't get across the border, or I couldn't get through into a country, and I'd have to go around or go to another crossing point. I mean, even on this trip in June, there I was in Iran. I had great trouble getting a visa to get into Iran in the first place, and then when I got in, I couldn't get out again because there's so few tourists there. They don't know what to do with a guy on a motorbike.
Yeah.
Um, so the first crossing point I went to, they wouldn't let the motorbike across, and the second one they let the motorbike across, but they wouldn't let me across.
Oh wow.
So it took 3 goes. I was starting to get desperate. So I was never going to get stuck in Iran. Um, and the last border post was able to get through okay into Pakistan, which is ironic because I got out of after panicking about getting out of Iran. The first thing they did in Pakistan was throw me in jail, um,
What?
apparently for my own protection.
Okay, for your own safety, they threw you in jail. Wow, that's
Yeah,
incredible.
the crossing point was only 20 odd miles away from Afghanistan, so they were very nervous about Westerners getting hijacked and shot, whatever. So they were great guys. They gave us a military escort the whole way across Pakistan, myself and another guy. Um, so we've met some wonderful people. Traveling on your own, you've much more chance to meet people and to get to know the culture and what's happening in the country because you have to because you've nobody else to talk to.
Right.
You travel
Well,
with.
how difficult was it though navigating all these different countries without speaking the language? I mean, I'm assuming you didn't speak every single language of all these different countries that you traveled to, and maybe even tried new foods that you never even tried before.
Yeah, lots of horrible foods. Well, I mean, the main difference when I did the journey when I was 21, one of the main problems was I didn't have enough money to last me. So I was living very sort of poorly, living like the natives, eating the local food. And you can live very cheaply in these countries.
Hmm.
But as you say, the food's not great and the accommodation's even worse. Um,
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
but as I say, if that journey was a coming of age story, this new journey is a coming of old age story because I'm at an age now. A lot of my friends are retiring or um, going semi-retired, and I've been quite disappointed with watching a lot of guys that have been very active in business and the corporate world, and they end up playing golf twice a week and digging the garden
Hmm.
for the week. And I thought, well, there must be more to life than this, because
Sure.
you've been working 40 years, you've been 40 hours a week for 40 years, and all you can do is all you get at the end of it is a time to dig the garden. So I
Right.
thought, well, let's um, see if I can do what I used to do when I was 21 and ride a motorbike around the world. So it's a great challenge to put yourself up against the what you did a lot of time ago
Oh yeah,
whenever you
that's a
starting your working
real
life and
big
such.
challenge. Yeah.
And one of the other ironic things about the journey was I'm using the same motorcycle that I used 43 years ago.
What? You're
So
using the same
not
bike that you used 40
same
years
actual
ago?
bike. Yeah, I've kept it,
What?
had it in the garage, rebuilt it a couple of times. It was my
Wow.
souvenir from that journey. So it's a Moto Guzzi. It's an Italian motorcycle. It's been pretty good. It's like a best friend.
So let,
So
let
not
me
only
I want to make
not
sure I
only am
understand
I getting a
correctly.
bit, not only am I getting a bit long in the tooth, but the motorcycles, we're sort of it's a battle to see who can get up so most mornings, who can get started and keep going.
So Chris, I want to make sure I understand correctly. You're getting ready to go on another long trip, or this is you're already planning it, or you've already started doing it in increments.
Started doing it in
And you're
all
traveling alone this time, or you're traveling with a friend?
traveling alone. I set off with a friend who was, in fact, it was his idea to do the trip because he'd always wanted to do some foreign travel and he knew I had, so he talked me into to doing it. So I was a bit annoyed. We got to Greece and he says, I don't want to do it anymore. So he came home and left me. Well, I either go on my own or give up. And I'm generally not the sort of guy that gives up on anything. So I went on my own, which is obviously, you're 64 years old. I'm at an age now things can go wrong with me physically.
Sure.
I'm suffering from Parkinson's disease slightly at the minute. Um, so that was an added challenge. And obviously, having a 45-year-old motorcycle, which has
Yeah.
already been around the
Wow.
world once, to keep me going. It's been a struggle, but a pleasant struggle. I find that the older machines are much more simple
Oh yeah.
than new cars and bikes are all run by computers these
Mm.
days. If anything
Right.
goes wrong, you need a guy with a laptop or some sort of computer to work out how to change the oil.
Totally.
Whereas the older bike, an old bike like mine, I can literally fix it with my eyes closed. Sometimes I've had to fix it in the dark, and you get to know a machine, you know exactly how it works and how to fix it and get on your way again. Um,
So Chris, you
but yeah,
mentioned.
one of the things I wanted to show was people just
Yeah.
because you time delay again. Um, one of the things I mentioned is to try and give people inspiration when they get into retirement years to start doing things that you might wanted to do all your life rather than just giving up and talking about your ill health and your aches and pains and lack of money, whatever it is. Get off your ass and do what you wanted to do. There's no reason why you can't.
Right.
It just takes a bit longer. You do things a bit slower. You get a bit tireder. I used to ride the motorbike all day. I'd get to the city and then park up and go out for the night. Whereas now I ride to the city and park up and go to bed.
Go to bed. Yeah. That's okay.
So that's all right. You do what you can.
So Chris, you mentioned that you have some Parkinson's that's in your life that you've been battling with or dealing with or going through.
Yeah, dealing with it. It seems to be a bit of a slow burner. I've had it for 4 or 5 years, and it's given me the odd shake, but it's been under control. So I think again with one of my with my dumb ass attitude, I got an affliction or something which is trying to hold me back and stop me doing something. My attitude is to run up against it and go the opposite,
Hmm.
just to try and prove that I can still do it.
Oh
Obviously,
yeah, that's an excellent state of mind to have when you're going through something like that, because you can actually defeat it that way. I'm
but you
curious.
can't.
Yeah, I'm curious if actually you traveling on your motorbike is helping you with it.
I think it is. It's when you're traveling on a motorcycle, you're it can be quite stressful at times. Obviously, if you fall off or something
Hmm.
happens, but you're very focused on one thing, which is staying alive, staying on the road. So you're getting rid of all your old. When you're living in the Western world, you've got so much going on, so many issues, so many problems and factors that you have to think about every day.
Right,
Or you're on a motorbike traveling to Australia, you've only got one thing in your mind, and that's keeping the motorcycle on the road and getting to the place you want to go to that night.
right.
So it has been quite beneficial to me in a way. I haven't found it a struggle, much of a struggle as I thought it might have been.
I can imagine. I can
As I
imagine
say, I
it's
was
helped you.
worried out there. My partner decided to bail out. Um, it was I had the second thoughts at that stage, but I was glad I went on and made it.
So when your
So I'm looking
partner
forward.
bailed out, you continued your journey?
Yeah, he bailed out in Athens on our between the second and third leg. But also COVID was the other thing we had to battle against in some of these countries.
Yeah.
There's various restrictions last year. And again, during COVID, you could have had the attitude, well, you can't do anything, just stay indoors. But as I say, just a bit bullheaded. I think you just got to get out there.
Oh
You know, I'm
yeah, definitely.
64, as I say, you don't know what's going to happen next year. I'm not being pessimistic, but you maybe have something that's physically stop you or mentally stop you to do something you want to do. So you're better, if you want to do something, do it this year, or don't put it off till next year. If you put
Exactly.
something off, you're probably just doing it because you're using it as an excuse not to do it now.
Yes.
Um, you're better just jumping in it into and going for it now.
So where are you traveling to next?
So next, I'm going to Brisbane to pick up the bike. I've got some friends in Australia. You mentioned in America. There's as many Irish people in Australia. I think we did our best to populate the world years ago. So I've got a few friends in Australia, and there's a couple of motorcycle rallies and still going on in the summer. There's summer next March, so I'll be down at that, and then hopefully we'll take the ship a bike over to the States and do a circuit around the US as well
Wow, that's so incredible.
towards the next year. So once you get going, it's hard to stop.
Yeah, I can imagine that. It sounds like a lot of fun. So, I mean, geez, and also the difference of you traveling 40 years ago when the digital world was non-existent, and now you flash forward to now where everything's digital and you've got the internet. I mean, how has traveling been different, even though you're using the same bike? How is it different?
Well, it is. Well, yeah. You hate to sort of sound like the old guy saying, "Oh, it's all different." It's not the same these days. It was much harder in our days, but it kind of was. The roads weren't as good, and the communications is a huge factor now. When I traveled down Africa, I think I rang home when I was in Egypt, and it was 3 months later before my parents heard from me again.
Wow.
Whereas now I can get on my mobile and phone my wife every night. I can get my laptop out and keep in
Sure.
touch with work because I'm sitting in a desert in Pakistan. I can be sending emails to people in Belfast. It has shrunk the world considerably and made life a lot easier. You can book your hotel and Airbnb down the road and everywhere, practically every country in the world, apart from Iran. Um, so there's Google Maps obviously is making a huge difference. You know where you're going. You
Oh
don't
yeah.
get lost. You arriving in a city like London or Los Angeles 40 years ago was like could take me all day to find your way somewhere. Whereas now you just dial it in.
Yeah.
But I have to say one of the things that hasn't changed is people are as friendly as they ever were. I think And some of the most extreme countries, such as Iran and Pakistan, I found were some of the most friendly people. Uh, Countries where you think in the West are no-go areas nearly. Um, Whenever you get there, there's people are so grateful to see foreigners. They're as friendly as any friendlier than anybody.
I can say
I had
that.
one instance in Iran whenever I stopped for petrol. All the petrol stations take credit cards instead of cash, and they're Iranian credit cards because they can't use Visa. I gave a guy, asked the guy to fill my tank, and I give him the cash. And twice it happened actually. He refused to take the cash off me. They filled my tank and said, "On you go, enjoy our country. You're very welcome."
Uh-huh.
It's the sort of thing that you've never had anywhere else in the world. But I've always found people, you're putting yourself out in a limb by being on your own, by going to a foreign country. But people do respect that generally, and they're nice and friendly and look after you, give you go out of their way to look after you.
Chris, tell us more about your book, Going the Wrong Way. I love that. I love that title, Going the Wrong Way. Why did you decide to title it that? Because I don't even want to assume, but why did you decide to title it Going the Wrong Way?
Well, as I say, I'm the guy left the UK to drive to Australia and ended up in Argentina. So you can't get much further the wrong way than that. But it was also just, I mean, part of the one of the halfway through the journey, I realized the beauty about the journey. What I really got out of it was the fact that I didn't know where I was going. I was traveling for travel's sake. Usually, when you travel somewhere, you're going on a journey. Your idea is to get to your destination.
Yeah,
That's why you travel. Whereas what I was doing was just traveling for the sake of traveling. So it was a much purer form of enjoyment because I wasn't actually going anywhere. I was just traveling for the sake of it. And it was great fun, great way to be on a journey. And I think it reflects in life generally that we do follow a well trodden path too often, but do what we're told. We're from when we're in primary school, we're taught to follow the rules, do what we're
mm-hmm.
told, get a job, get a mortgage, get a kids, blah blah blah, end up retired.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's just nice to throw the head up and go a different direction.
Right, right. And then sometimes going the different direction actually ends up being the right direction, the direction you're meant to go to.
Yeah, it's certainly more fun, because I think a lot of the pleasure you get out of life is learning how to do things, learning about things. Once you know how to do things, it nearly becomes boring. I think maybe just with a restless soul, but I enjoy the finding out about things rather than actually doing them regularly.
Right. Oh yeah, there's a lot
Uh,
of joy in finding out new things on your own, rather than it just being there right when you first see it. It's discovering. That's what makes it really fun.
but yeah, I mean, it also taught me how to. There's a lot of times you're on your own. You're rejected. You're in a motorcycle. You're not a lot of countries you very much look down on. So it taught me how to how to react when people look down on you, like how it feels to be at the other side of the tracks, if you like, from the sort of the right way to be, how to be, how to have a bit of faith in people, how to trust people as much as you can.
What's the biggest takeaway on of your book, Going the Wrong Way? What's the biggest takeaway?
I think it's sure if you have resilience, if you decide to do something, just about anybody can do it. So the motorcycle I took away with me was a road going motorcycle. It wasn't good for the track. I didn't know where it was going, but I was determined to do it, and I was able to do it. And even as going as far as writing the book itself, I was never a scholar at school. I was never an intellectual. I struggled to get through my English exams and get an education at all. I was a bit dyslexic, but I ended up being able to write a book which got 950 reviews on Amazon in 2 years. So
Wow, it's
it's been
incredible.
very successful. We've got some great feedback from it. So if I can ride a bike, anybody can do it. Put it that way. If I can ride a motorcycle around the world at the age of 64, yeah, anybody can do it. There's nothing to stop anybody. The
Wow.
one thing annoys me, people would go to book shows and motorcycle shows, and people say to me, "Oh, I wish I had the time to do it. I wish I had the money to do that. I wish I could." I mean, these are just excuses.
Sure.
You don't have the time. Do it in 2 weeks off, 2 weeks on, 4 weeks off, 2 weeks on. If you don't have the money, well, do it in the cheap, or go around Europe or go around the States. You don't have to go on a bicycle. You can do what you like. Cut your cloth to suit your budget, your time scale, but just get out and do it.
I love that. There's basically no excuse. Just go out and do it.
Yeah.
So, wow, thank you so much. You know, it's crazy. I remember, man, about 20 years ago, I there was this movie in Spanish, and it was called Motorcycle Diaries, and that was the first time I watched a movie about a kid that traveled the world in his motorcycle, and basically had a lot of
Wasn't it? It was Che Guevara, I think.
what's that?
I think it was Che Guevara that was about.
Yes. Yeah,
Uh,
it was. You're right. It was the story about
well,
Che Guevara. However you say his last name. Yes, Shea's Rebellion. Yes, it's exactly what it was. What a great memory you have. Better than mine. But it was called Motorcycle Diaries, and I remember watching it, and I thought that was really, really amazing. And now I'm actually meeting somebody, Chris Donaldson, that's actually done that. You have your own true, real deal Motorcycle Diaries. This is incredible. You travel around the world. Everybody, this is an incredible author here. Chris Donaldson has his book on Amazon called Going the Wrong Way. He traveled all over the world in his bike. He's still doing it at age 65. There's no reason not to go out and to do for you whatever it is you need to do, whatever your passion is. Go out and do it. Just go out and do it. Right, Chris?
that's right. Well,
Thanks so much.
don't come back.
Yeah.
Don't come back to me if you get into trouble.
No.
You're right, first corner.
No, I won't. But thank you so much for being on Little Less Fear podcast. Geez, this has been
My
really
pleasure,
amazing.
Dave.
Please have safe travels, happy travels. Keep following your heart. You're doing what you're supposed to do because you love it. And that's how you know when you're doing what you're supposed to do because you're enjoying it, you're loving it, you feel free, and it's making you feel incredible. And congratulations on the book. Again, everybody, the book is called Going the Wrong Way. It's got incredible reviews on Amazon. Check it out. This has been an amazing interview with Chris Donaldson, traveling the world in his 60s. Everybody in his 60s. If he could do it, you could do it. Thanks so much, Chris. Happy New Year
Thank
to
you.
you and all your family, your
Happy
loved
New
ones,
Year. Yeah.
and safe travels.
Maybe see you in the States when I get that way.
Yeah, email me, and I'm in Los Angeles, California, and we can meet up.
Will do. Certainly. Great. Look forward to it.
Thank you so much.